I let him humiliate me for exactly 17 minutes before I sent the text. 17 minutes of Tristan mocking my plain dress, offering to pay for my dinner like charity, introducing me to his new wife wearing an actual tiara while calling me his struggling ex. Then the building started shaking. A shadow fell across the ballroom windows, and I watched my ex-husband's face drain of color as a black helicopter landed on the terrace. Because the Korean Mafia King doesn't do valet parking, and he was about to teach Tristan exactly what happens when you disrespect his wife. But before I tell you about the moment he broke Tristan's finger in front of everyone, let me tell you how I almost didn't go to that reunion at all. Subscribe to see how this unfolds, and comment where you're watching from. I'd love to say hello to you just to know how far our story is going. 3 days before the reunion, I threw the invitation in the trash. I was standing in our penthouse kitchen, sunlight pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River. The invitation was expensive cardstock with gold lettering that screamed, "Look how successful we are." 10-year high school reunion, Grand Lotus Hotel, black tie optional. I read it once, felt my stomach twist, and decided I'd rather eat glass. But Taehyung found it that evening. He pulled it from the trash without a word, smoothed out the wrinkles, and set it on the counter between us. "You're not going." His voice was neutral, but I knew him well enough to hear the real question. "What's the point?" I was chopping vegetables with more force than necessary. "It's just people I haven't seen in a decade, competing over who has the better life." "And you think you'd lose that competition?" I stopped mid-chop. "That's not what I said." He moved behind me, hands settling on my hips, chin resting on my shoulder. "You've told me about these people. The ones who looked down on you, the ones who didn't help when you needed it." His voice was soft, almost gentle. "The ones who stood by and watched when Tristan destroyed you." "Exactly. So why would I want to see them again? Because they need to see you." I turned in his arms, meeting those dark, dangerous eyes. "Tae-hyung, go," he said firmly. "Show them what they lost. Show them who you became." His thumb traced my jaw. "And if anyone makes you uncomfortable, if anyone so much as looks at you wrong," a smile ghosted across his lips. Beautiful and terrifying. "I'll be watching." That smile should have been a warning. Now, standing in the marble lobby of the Grand Lotus Hotel, I wondered if I'd made a massive mistake. The lobby was designed to make you feel either very rich or very poor, depending on which side of the velvet ropes you stood on. I walked through the revolving doors in my black silk dress, clutching a small purse, my natural hair pulled back in a simple bun. I made it exactly 7 steps before a voice stopped. "Me." "Excuse me, miss?" The concierge was young, with slicked back hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He stepped in front of me, blocking my path to the grand staircase. "Can I help you?" I asked. His eyes swept over my dress, my lack of jewelry, the simplicity of my appearance. His smile tightened. "The service entrance is around back. You'll need to check in with catering staff." For a moment, I didn't understand. Then it clicked. He thought I worked here. Something hot and sharp twisted in my chest, but I kept my face calm. "I'm not staff. I'm a guest." His smile became patronizing. "Miss, this is a private event, unless you have an invitation." I pulled it from my purse and held it up. He blinked. Of course. My apologies." He didn't move. "It's just that the dress code is black tie, and I thought—" "You thought wrong," I said quietly. I stepped around him and walked toward the staircase, heels clicking against marble. I didn't look back. But my hands were shaking by the time I reached the ballroom doors. Here's what nobody tells you about high school reunions. They're not about reconnecting. They're about proving you won. The Grand Lotus Ballroom was exactly what I'd expected. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, ice sculptures shaped like swans, a jazz quartet in the corner, And everywhere, people dressed like they were attending the Oscars. I stepped through the doors and the room seemed to pause. Conversations didn't stop exactly, but they shifted. Heads turned. Eyes tracked my movement. I could feel the weight of their stares like hands pressing against my skin. A woman in a silver sequined gown leaned toward her date. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read her lips. Is that Bree? She looks tired. Another woman whispered behind her champagne flute. I thought she moved away. What's she doing here? Tired. That's what they thought. Because my makeup was natural. Because my dress wasn't covered in sequins or crystals or whatever else people wore to prove they'd made it. I walked to the bar, ordered water, and tried to disappear. I lasted exactly 4 minutes. Bree Williams. The voice hit me like cold water. I turned slowly, already knowing who I'd see. Tristan Cole stood 3 feet away, grinning like he'd just won something. He looked almost the same sharp jawline, same confident stance. But there were differences. His suit was expensive but fit wrong, too tight in the shoulders, too shiny in the light. His teeth were too white, veneers that belonged in a toothpaste commercial. And there was something in his eyes, something hungry and mean, that I'd either never noticed before or had trained myself to ignore. I wasn't sure you'd actually show up, Tristan said, closing the distance. But here you are. Here I am, I agreed, taking a sip of water. You remember Amber, right? I'd never met Amber, but I knew exactly who she was. She was tall, blonde, and wearing what could only be described as a tiara. An actual tiara, like she was competing in a beauty pageant instead of attending a reunion. Her dress was tight and red and covered in enough rhinestones to fund a small country. We haven't met, I said. Oh, but I've heard so much about you, Amber cooed, looping her arm through Tristan's. Tristan's told me everything. The struggling years, the tiny apartment, the challenges. She said the last word like it was a disease. Tristan's eyes swept over my dress and that smirk widened. You look simple. Very minimalist. Is that the style now? The whole I don't care look? Something like that. Well, you pull it off. Very authentic. He gestured to the ballroom. I'm actually the one who sponsored this whole thing. Paid for the venue, the catering, the open bar. Figured it was the least I could do. How generous. I just wanted everyone to have a good time. Even people who maybe can't afford the $500 plate. His eyes lingered on me. But don't worry, it's covered. Consider it my gift. Amber giggled. Actually giggled. Baby, you're so thoughtful. And that's when I realized this wasn't going to be a subtle evening of passive-aggressive small talk. Tristan was here to humiliate me in front of everyone. Before I could respond, someone clinked a glass. The jazz quartet stopped playing. The lights dimmed, and a spotlight appeared at the center of the room. Tristan squeezed Amber's hand. That's my cue. Enjoy the night, Bree. Try the lobster. It's expensive. He walked away, and I stood frozen as he took the microphone. Good evening, everyone. Tristan's voice boomed through the speakers. For those who don't know me, though I can't imagine there are many, I'm Tristan Cole, class of 2016, and I'm honored to be your host tonight. Applause rippled through the room. People raised their glasses. 10 years, Tristan continued. 10 years since we walked across that stage. And look at us now. Look at what we've accomplished. He gestured broadly. Doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs. We've built lives. We've built legacies. More applause, more champagne. Of course, Tristan said, his tone shifting. Not everyone's journey has been the same. Some of us have climbed higher than others. Some of us have struggled. My stomach dropped. Tristan's eyes found mine across the room. I want to make a toast to success, to growth, and to those of us who faced challenges and came out stronger. He raised his glass higher. And to those who are still facing challenges, may you find your footing soon. He looked directly at me. The room followed his gaze. 100 pairs of eyes landed on me like spotlights. Whispers erupted. Someone laughed, a quick, nervous sound that was immediately stifled. Tristan smiled. To perseverance. To perseverance, the room echoed. I stood perfectly still, my water glass steady in my hand, my face a mask of calm. But inside, something was burning. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out just enough to see the screen. Say the word. I glanced toward the windows. Beyond the glass, the night was dark and empty. Not yet. I typed back. Soon. The timer had started. The applause after Tristan's toast faded into uncomfortable silence. I remained standing near the bar, my water glass still raised in a mock salute that no one seemed to notice. The spotlight had moved on, but the damage was done. Amber appeared first, her tiara catching the light as she glided over. "Bree, honey," she said, reaching up to unclasp one of her dangling earrings. They were large, gaudy things, fake diamonds in a gold setting. I feel just terrible about what Tristan said. He can be so thoughtless sometimes. She held the earring out like it was a prize. "Here, take these. You look so bare. No jewelry at all. These will really brighten up your look." I stared at the earring, then at her face, at the performative sympathy that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm good, thanks," I said quietly. Her smile tightened. She pushed the earring closer. "No, really, I insist. I have dozens of pairs at home. These are nothing to me." I said no, thank you. "It's not charity," Amber said, her voice rising. "It's just girl to girl, you know? We should help each other out, especially when someone's clearly going through a rough patch." A few people nearby had stopped talking to watch. I set my water glass down. "Amber, I don't need your earrings, but I appreciate the offer." "You're being prideful," she snapped. "Pride doesn't pay bills, sweetie. Trust me, Tristan told me all about how you used to be, how you struggled, how he had to support you." She shook the earring. "Just take them. Don't make this weird." "The only thing weird here," I said calmly, "is you trying to force your jewelry on someone who doesn't want it." Her face flushed red beneath her makeup. "I was trying to help you. I didn't ask for help." "Well, maybe that's your problem." The fake sweetness evaporated completely. "Maybe if you'd learned to accept help, you wouldn't be standing here in a dress that looks like you got it from a thrift store, with no ring, no necklace, nothing to show you've done anything with your life." The small crowd gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." My pulse quickened, but my voice stayed level. "Are we done here?" Amber opened her mouth to respond, but Tristan appeared, wrapping an arm around her waist. "Baby, what's going on?" "She won't take my earrings," Amber whined. "I was just trying to be nice, and she's being completely rude." Tristan looked at me, his expression shifting into something colder. "You know, Bree, Amber's just trying to help. You could at least be gracious about it." I was gracious. I said no thank you, multiple times. "That's not gracious. That's stubborn." He stepped closer, champagne glass dangling from his fingers. "You always were too proud for your own good. Even when we were married, you couldn't accept help from anyone. You had to do everything yourself, even when you were failing." "I wasn't failing," I said quietly. "I was surviving. There's a difference." "Surviving," Tristan repeated, laughing. "Is that what you call it? Working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on? Eating ramen every night because you couldn't afford real food?" He gestured at my dress. "And look at you now, still in survival mode, still scraping by." My hands curled into fists. "You don't know anything about my life now, Tristan." I know you're here alone, he said. I know you're wearing a dress that probably cost less than Amber's shoes. I know you don't have a ring on your finger, which means you're still single, still stuck. He took a sip of champagne. Some things never change. The words hung in the air like smoke. But before I could respond, Tristan moved. It happened fast. Too fast to be anything but deliberate. He stepped forward, his arms swinging wide as if gesturing to someone across the room, and his champagne glass tilted. Red wine arced through the air in slow motion, a crimson wave that splashed across the front of my black dress. The cold liquid soaked through the silk immediately. The room went silent. Tristan stumbled back, his free hand flying to his mouth in mock horror. Oh my God. Bree, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you there. I looked down at the wine spreading across my dress like blood. I could feel it dripping down my legs, pooling in my shoes. That's what you get for standing so close, Amber muttered, loud enough for people to hear. Tristan grabbed a napkin from a nearby table and reached toward me. Here, let me help. Don't touch me, I said. Something in my voice made him freeze. He pulled his hand back, the napkin hanging uselessly. Then his expression shifted, the fake concern melting into something uglier. Well, at least it's a black dress, he said, voice dripping with condescension. Wine stains blend right in. Probably hides the dirt well too. I bet you wear a lot of black for that reason, huh? Laughter rippled through the crowd. Not everyone, but enough. Enough to make it hurt. I stood there, soaked in wine, surrounded by people who had once been my classmates, my friends, my peers, people who were now laughing at my humiliation like it was entertainment. I pulled out my phone with wine-stained fingers, typed one word. Now. The response was immediate. 30 seconds. I looked up at Tristan, at his smug smile and his 2 white teeth and his cheap suit that he thought made him important. You should leave, I said quietly. Tristan laughed. Excuse me? I said you should leave. Right now. Walk out that door and don't look back. This is my event, Tristan said, his voice rising. I paid for this. I'm the sponsor. If anyone's leaving, it's you. He turned to the crowd. Can someone call? Security! This woman is clearly disturbed. She's ruining the evening for everyone. 2 security guards appeared from the side of the room, moving toward me with practiced efficiency. Miss, we're going to have to ask you to leave, one said. I didn't move. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Ma'am, please don't make this difficult. That's when the sound started. It was distant at first, a low thrum that could have been mistaken for thunder. But it grew louder, deeper. The kind of sound you feel in your chest before you hear it in your ears. Thump, thump, thump. The chandeliers began to sway. The champagne in glasses rippled like something out of Jurassic Park. The massive floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the terrace started to vibrate, the glass humming with the force of something approaching. The jazz quartet stopped playing mid-note. Someone screamed. The sound became deafening, a roar of mechanical thunder that drowned out everything else. A shadow descended past the windows, massive and dark, blocking out the moonlight. A helicopter. Black. Unmarked. Military grade. It descended onto the terrace with precision, landing skids touching down on marble tiles just beyond the glass. The rotor wash sent potted plants flying, knocked over outdoor furniture, turned the terrace into a war zone. The entire ballroom stood frozen, champagne glasses halfway to lips, conversations dying mid-sentence. Tristan's face had gone pale. What the hell? The helicopter door opened. 6 men stepped out first. They were huge, easily 6 foot plus, dressed in black tactical gear with earpieces and the kind of blank expressions that said they'd seen things that would break normal people. They moved with military precision, forming a corridor from the helicopter to the terrace doors. Then he emerged. Tae-hyung stepped out like he was stepping out of a luxury car. He wore a black tuxedo, but the jacket was open, the bow tie missing. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, revealing the edge of a tattoo. A dragon's head, its body disappearing beneath the fabric. His dark hair was slightly windswept, and his expression was utterly, terrifyingly calm. He looked bored. Like crashing a reunion in a military helicopter was just another Tuesday. One of his men opened the terrace doors from the outside. The sound of rotors flooded into the ballroom, bringing with it the smell of aviation fuel and something else. Something dangerous. Taehyung walked through the doors, boots crunching on scattered debris. His 6 men followed, flanking him in a formation that made the hotel security guards look like children playing dress-up. The music had stopped. The entire ballroom was silent except for the dying whir of helicopter rotors. Taehyung's eyes swept the room once, cataloging everything, before landing on me. His expression shifted. Just slightly. The boredom evaporated, replaced by something cold and focused. Crossed the ballroom in long strides, people scrambling out of his way like he was radioactive. He didn't acknowledge them, didn't even glance at them. He walked straight to me. When he reached me, he stopped. His eyes dropped to the wine stain spreading across my dress, and his jaw tightened. "Who?" he asked. His voice was quiet, but it carried. The kind of quiet that made people stop breathing. I didn't have to say anything. Taehyung's eyes followed my gaze to Tristan. Tristan had backed up several steps, his champagne glass forgotten on a nearby table. This is a private event. You can't just... Tae-hyung cut him off with a single raised hand. He turned his attention back to me, his expression softening just slightly. "Are you hurt?" "Just wet," I said. "Did he touch you?" I thought about the way Tristan had grabbed my wrist earlier. "Yes." Something flickered in Taehyung's eyes, something that made grown men in tactical gear shift their weight nervously. Shrugged off his tuxedo jacket and draped it over my shoulders. It was warm from his body heat and smelled like expensive cologne and gunpowder. Then he turned to face Tristan. "You," Taehyung said simply. Tristan tried to straighten up, tried to look confident. "Listen, I don't know who you are, but you need to leave. This is my event. I paid for..." "Your name," Taehyung interrupted. Tristan Cole. I own Cole Industries. Maybe you've heard of..." "I haven't." Taehyung took a step forward. "You touched my wife." The word hit the room like a grenade. Wife. Amber's mouth fell open. Her champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. "Your wife?" Tristan repeated. His laugh was nervous, desperate. "That's impossible. She's nobody. She's just..." He didn't get to finish. Taehyung moved faster than someone his size should be able to move. One moment he was standing still, the next his hand had locked around Tristan's wrist. The same wrist Tristan had used to grab me earlier. "This hand," Taehyung said quietly, his accent thickening slightly. "This is the hand that touched her?" It wasn't..." Tristan's face was turning red. "You're hurting me." "Good," Taehyung said. He applied pressure, not much, just enough. The sound of bone breaking was surprisingly loud in the silent ballroom. A sharp crack that made several people gasp. Tristan screamed. It was a high, thin sound, the kind of scream that came from real pain, not performance. He dropped to his knees, cradling his wrist against his chest. His finger, the index finger he'd used to point at me, to gesture dismissively, to mock, bent at an angle that fingers weren't supposed to bend. "Oh my God," someone whispered. "Oh my God, he broke it." Taehyung released Tristan's wrist and stepped back, examining his own hand like he'd just done something mildly unpleasant. "You spilled wine on her dress," he said conversationally. "Do you..." Know what this dress is made of? Tristan was too busy sobbing to answer. It's woven from golden orb spider silk, Taehyung continued, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. Bulletproof, waterproof, and worth more than every car in your company's parking lot combined. He tilted his head. But you thought it was cheap. You thought she was cheap. I didn't know. Tristan gasped. I didn't. Please. You called security to remove her, Taehyung said. You tried to have my wife thrown out of a hotel that I... He paused. Well, that I'm about to own. And here's where it gets interesting, because what Tristan didn't know, what nobody in that room knew, was that the sponsorship he'd been bragging about all night, the one that made him feel so important, his credit card had been declined 3 days ago. The reunion committee was too polite to tell him. But Taehyung had paid for the entire event. Anonymously. Just to see what would happen. As, if on cue, the ballroom doors burst open. The hotel manager came running in, a small, balding man in a suit that was slightly too large. He took one look at the scene. The helicopter on the terrace, the men in tactical gear, Tristan on the floor, and went pale. Mr. Lee, he gasped, bowing so low he nearly folded in half. We didn't know you were coming. If we had known. This man, Taehyung gestured to Tristan, rented your ballroom tonight? Yes, sir. Mr. Cole is one of our premium clients. Not anymore, Taehyung said. He pulled out his phone, pressed a single button, and held it to his ear. Yes. The Grand Lotus Hotel. I want to buy it, all of it. The building, the land, everything. The manager's eyes went wide. Sir, I don't think... Taehyung held up one finger for silence. No, I don't care what the current owners want. Offer them double market value, triple if they hesitate. He paused. Good. Transfer the funds now. He lowered the phone and looked at the manager. Congratulations. You have a new owner. Me. And my first executive decision is this. Mr. Cole and his wife are permanently banned from this property. If they set foot on hotel grounds again, you will call the police and have them arrested for trespassing. Understood? The manager nodded frantically. Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Tae-hyung turned back to Tristan, who was still on the floor, clutching his broken finger. You wanted to humiliate her, he said quietly. You wanted to make her feel small, unwanted, less than. He crouched down, bringing himself to eye level with Tristan. Let me tell you something about my wife. She survived you. She built a life after you destroyed hers. She became stronger, smarter, better. And then she married me. He stood up, towering over Tristan's broken form. You, on the other hand, peaked in high school. Your company is hemorrhaging money. Your crypto investments are underwater. And that sponsorship you bragged about? Tae-hyung smiled, a cold, empty expression. Your credit card was declined. The reunion committee was too polite to tell you, so I paid for it. Anonymously. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Amber had backed away from Tristan, her face twisted in horror and embarrassment. You have nothing, Taehyung continued. You are nothing, and now you don't even have this hotel to come back to. He turned away from Tristan like he was yesterday's garbage and walked back to me. His expression softened immediately, the cold brutality replaced by genuine concern. Ready to go home? He asked. I nodded. More than ready. Tae-hyung scooped me up without warning, one arm beneath my knees, the other supporting my back. I wrapped my arms around his neck, and he carried me toward the terrace like I weighed nothing. His men fell into formation around us, creating a protective corridor. Wait, the manager called out. The damages to the terrace, the broken planters. Taehyung didn't even slow down. Send me the bill. We walked through the shattered landscape of the terrace, past overturned furniture and scattered flowers. The helicopter's rotors began spinning up again, the sound building to a crescendo. Tae-hyung lifted me into the helicopter first, then climbed in behind me. His men followed, the last one closing the door with a solid thunk. Through the window, I could see the ballroom, see the crowd of my former classmates pressed against the glass, watching with their mouths open. See Tristan still on the floor, cradling his broken finger while Amber stood 10 feet away, her tiara askew. See the ruins of a life I'd left behind 10 years ago. The helicopter lifted off smoothly, rising into the night sky. The Grand Lotus Hotel shrank beneath us, its lights twinkling like dying stars. Taehyung pulled me closer, his hand resting on my hip where wine had soaked through the silk. "You okay?" he asked quietly, his lips close to my ear. I leaned into him, letting the tension drain from my body. "I'm perfect." "Good." He pressed a kiss to my temple, "because tomorrow I'm going to ruin him properly." Tonight was just the preview. Below us, Seoul spread out like a sea of lights. Somewhere down there, Tristan was probably being loaded into an ambulance, his broken finger throbbing, his reputation in ruins, his sponsorship revealed as a fraud. And me? I was flying home in a helicopter, wrapped in my husband's arms, wearing a dress worth more than some people's houses. I smiled. Some people deserved to see what they'd lost, and tonight, Tristan had gotten a very clear view. Now, here's what you need to understand about revenge. Everyone thinks it's about the big moment, the helicopter landing, the finger breaking, the hotel purchase. And sure, those things are satisfying. But real revenge happens in the quiet moments after. It's watching your ex-husband's business collapse over the next 6 months because word spreads about what happened that night. It's seeing his new wife file for divorce when she realizes he lied about everything. It's knowing that every time he looks at his crooked finger, he thinks about you. But here's what I didn't expect. I didn't expect to feel nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just emptiness. Because revenge doesn't heal you. It just closes a door. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's building a life so good that they become irrelevant. Subscribe if you want to hear about the aftermath, because Tristan tried one more time to come after us, and what Taehyung did next made that night look like child's play. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. I'll be reading every single one.